As Coloradans vote on whether to severely restrict new oil and gas development statewide, a key suburban county might just shut it down tomorrow morning. Adams County commissioners will vote on a temporary moratorium on new oil and gas permits. And if you're thinking, I haven't heard that Adams County was talking about this, you're right. It had not been discussed publicly and only popped up on tomorrow's agenda today. The resolution says Adams County is concerned about a flood of new drilling applications from oil and gas companies trying to scoot in ahead of the enactment of Proposition 112. 112, of course, would put significantly more land off limits to energy development. This resolution in Adams County says a temporary shutdown in new permits is a matter of fairness. The pro-oil and gas group Vital for Colorado called it politics at its worst. The oil and gas industry has painted 112 as a nightmare scenario, a de facto ban on new oil and gas development. The industry knows it is not that dire because they've seen the report that was leaked to our politics guy, Marshall Zelinger.
When it comes to Proposition 112, we've heard from teachers.
This is effectively a ban.
Even a reverend.
Proposition 112 compels me to speak out.
But we've never seen a political ad talking about what oil and gas operations would still look like if Proposition 112 passed. As we've told you, that means changing the oil and gas operations limits from 500 feet from a home and 1,000 feet from a school to 2,500 feet away from homes, schools, playgrounds, streams, and creeks. That means on state-owned land in northeastern Colorado, for example, future oil and gas operations would only be allowed in the white areas. Well, what can they access from those white areas? We got our hands on a report that answers that question. RS Energy Group is an independent energy research firm that created the Proposition 112 playbook. This report is sent to subscribers, oil and gas companies, investors, and banks. And someone gave it to the Yes on 112 people who gave it to us. This report determined that if oil and gas operations were limited to the white areas in northeastern Colorado, they could still access 61% of what's underground. Here's another look. The blue shaded area is what's known as the Denver-Julesburg Basin. The minerals in 61% of this blue area would still be accessible even if oil and gas were limited to a small section of land above ground. Most of the minerals are found in this pink blob, the Wattenberg Field. The report determined that 43% of the minerals here would still be attainable. How? Here's a crude example. Consider this hole a piece of land that is still allowed to have an oil and gas well if Proposition 112 passed. The oil and gas company could use horizontal drilling to dig into the ground and go sideways 10,000 feet to still get the minerals where they are no longer allowed to set up shop above ground. For Next, I'm Marshall Zelinger.
Oil and gas industry got back to us late this afternoon and essentially told Marshall that it's not as simple as that cup example. They said you got to take into account geology and land access, and this is key, they pointed out, the cost of having to drill from farther away. Colorado National Guard is not headed for the Mexican border, at least not at the moment. There are Guard members from other states there now, and the military announced today it is sending more than 5,000 additional troops, all the while as President Trump rails against that migrant caravan walking north weeks from the U.S. border, now in southern Mexico. NBC News says that this call-up today will include active duty, reserve, and National Guard. Now, Governor could refuse to allow Colorado's National Guard troops to go. And on this, the current candidates for governor strongly disagree. Republican Walker Stapleton excitedly embraced the concept during the GOP primary when I asked him, and his team says he feels the same way today. Democratic gubernatorial candidate Jared Polis skipped the primary debate where we asked the Democrats. His spokesman told me today that Polis, quote, would not permit President Trump to use our National Guard for a political stunt aimed at stoking fear among the American people. All right, here's your daily ballot check and what it means. Colorado's Republicans are a lot less enthusiastic about this year's midterm election than they were in 2014. Here's how we know that. So right now, more than 618,000 Coloradans have returned their ballots. That is 6% less than at this point during the last midterms in 2014. 219,000 of them are from Republicans. Here's your key number. That is 22% less than 2014. Democrat turnout at this point is up about 1%, and when it comes to unaffiliateds, they are participating at a 12% higher rate than in the last midterms. Tomorrow is the deadline when the Secretary of State's office says the voters should be dropping off their ballots in person rather than mailing them, just to make sure that you beat the election night deadline. Denver took a different approach with its latest homeless sweep today. The city cleaned and cleared the sidewalks and alleyways near the homeless shelters downtown today. And for the first time, the city health department issued an order to close the sidewalks during the cleanup. The city says outreach workers visited that area last week and warned people about what was going to happen today. For people who call those sidewalks home, this certainly felt like the old homeless sweeps that were so controversial. The city again insisted that we're talking about a public health risk and a fire hazard.
We've got, feces, urine, we've got rats, we've got needles, and we're just asking folks to sort of clear off the sidewalks for now so that we can get in and clean them.
I see a violation of human rights and a violation of dignity. I see people losing their belongings, and I see people losing their place to survive.
The spot near the shelters is an area of constant concern. Denver Fire says they've been called out to that area near 23rd and Lawrence nearly 2,200 times since the beginning of the year. Issues including assaults and calls for medical help, and they say that they have also had fires on the sidewalks, 2 in the past week. America has been united in grief and solidarity with Pittsburgh, where Saturday's massacre at a synagogue is thought to be the deadliest attack on Jews in American history. 11 people killed, many of them elderly. Police say the suspect ranted hatred toward Jews during the attack inside their house of worship. Our Marshal Zelinger would like to share a few words about that.
Religion is personal. What you believe and what I believe may be different, but the feeling we get going to a religious service is probably the same. It's the feeling I got attending the Solidarity Vigil yesterday. This is what it looked like inside the sanctuary. Every religion, every age group. I actually didn't get to see this view because I was with the hundreds more in the overflow social hall. I go to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. For those who attend services only on Christmas and Easter, we have similar attendance records. When I go to services, for as long as I can remember, I've had to walk past a police officer to get inside. I thought that was normal. I'm embarrassed to admit during last month's services, I had a passing thought. What if someone attacked the packed synagogue? What's my escape? That's not normal during a religious experience. At least it shouldn't be. Just like I found out walking past a police officer isn't normal for a religious experience. And it shouldn't be.
Some bars and restaurants closed with little notice, thinking the staff would all bolt ahead of time if they knew. This place chose to do things more honestly.
And they've been working here full time, so they haven't really had a chance to go out and look for new employment.
This is most certainly not how you Colorado. And there ain't no party like an A-line party because an A-line party don't stop, except when it does. Then RTD sends a party bus. All aboard, next.
What's more American than a strong American man wearing a strong American-made necktie, especially if the tie has a flag on it, or an eagle and a flag? Anyway, why does Kyle Clark hate wearing ties? Does he hate America? Marshal Zelinger loves America. Jeremy Hohola loves America. Kyle Clark only loves flaunting his skinny, pasty, weak little neck. Ties send a clear message. Hey, I'm important. I know what I'm talking about. Kyle Clark, he's not important. He doesn't know what he's talking about. This year, vote for news anchors who love ties. Vote for anchors who love America.
Paid for by the American Network Industry Council.
I found Claire in the hallways when I knew something was bad.
School safety is more than locked doors and security cameras.
75% of kids that have done a targeted school violence are actually suicidal.
We need professionals who can identify that students are on the path to being mentally unhealthy and figure out ways to help them with that.
Where are the mental health counselors in our schools?
We're in this together to solve the problem.
What some school districts are doing to close the gap.
Todo está bien? Did you have a good summer?
I'm on track to do something good.
Our school, come on, we love weird kids.
This is me.
This place was like, wow.
It's gonna be great today.
I think that's amazing.
I want to welcome everybody.
That girl portrays determination.
That was a tight squeeze. Oh, wow.
Keeping my fingers crossed.
I don't know who decided that the news was a litany of the 10 worst things to happen in Colorado today. Why is that news? Just because it's bad? Just because it's sad? That's not a reflection of your life. That's not a reflection of my life. What are our days really like? Yeah, there are ups and downs. A lot of stuff's pretty mundane and boring. Every now and then you see something that's so funny, you're like, oh yeah, tell somebody about that. That's what our days are actually like. So that's what we want next to be like.
I aspire to be a writer. New York Times bestseller is the dream.
My dream is to become a marine biologist and to work hands-on with animals.
I dream to travel around the world and be an influential speaker.
I want to be a businesswoman or a doctor.
My goals and aspirations are to make a difference.
My dream is to be an Air Force pilot.
I want to go to med school and I want to be a trauma surgeon.
I always ask my family for world peace for Christmas.
There have been frightening things in the news lately, familiar things for many Coloradans. Check in with your family and friends. If you or someone you know needs mental health support or emotional help, it's available right this second. A real person ready to provide real problem solving. Call or text Colorado Crisis Services. Let's take care of ourselves and each other.
Change starts with one courageous person who steps up and speaks out. If you've been wronged or see wrongdoing, email us at blowthewhistle@9news.com.
Hey, you a little sick of the politics and campaigning? I get it. That's why we've taken to telling you each day on Next when we are done with politics, at least for today's program. Note, offer does not apply to commercial breaks.
While not a monster storm, the Halloween forecast will chill you to the bone. Storm, you say? What do you mean? It was 79 degrees in Denver in October. There can't be a storm coming. Yes, there is one coming, knocking on the door. It is just about to move into central Wyoming and into Denver about 11, 12 o'clock tonight. First, you'll hear the wind. Tomorrow, you'll wake up to rain, mostly cloudy skies, off and on during the day. The rain-snow mix will continue. Really won't be a big problem for travelers unless you're headed up I-70 in the afternoon. And then overnight tomorrow night into Wednesday morning, the Wednesday morning drive could be the most difficult. But look at this. By Halloween, 10 o'clock in the morning, storms out of here, at least for the metro area. And that means a dry night for trick-or-treaters. We're looking at about a trace to 2 inches of snow for Denver here in the city, and with heavier amounts to the west and south where winter weather and travel advisories are in effect. Tonight is dry, mild, mostly cloudy. 38 will be your low. Tomorrow, we jump to 46, and that is half the number that we saw today. Rain and snow showers continue through Wednesday morning. Clearing, cold for trick-or-treaters, but then a warming trend heading into next weekend. I'm also watching a separate storm for Sunday. I think there's a football game that day as well. So here is the Halloween forecast. The storm moves out, a little snow on the grass, and temperatures between 37 and 41 degrees between 5 and 9 o'clock. Dress warmly. Looks pretty good.
Thank you, Kathy. Hey, wish we didn't have to do this, but it's time to tell somebody else. That's not how you Colorado. And we're looking at you, gas station and Subway sandwich shop in Georgetown, where you feed your extra bread to the deer. You know, no, don't do this. You think you're being nice. You're endangering their lives. That's not cool. Don't do this. We understand that Subway corporate actually got involved, and somebody got a metaphorical foot-long boot to the backside to make sure that this does not happen at Subway again. All right, to confession time. Have you ever looked for a new job while you're at your current job? I don't just mean like simultaneously. I mean like you are on the clock, in the building. Oh shoot, quick, minimize the browser window because the application's up and your boss is walking over. You done that before? Well, today, for the staff at Gov's Park in Cap Hill, that sort of thing was actually encouraged. Gov's closes for good on November 11th, and today, the owner threw a job fair.
We're hosting a job fair for our employees. As everybody knows, we're closing. Our last day is November 11th. And so I just wanted to bring in some prospective future employers for our employees so they could land on their feet and hopefully pretty seamlessly.
I'm looking just for a place where I know I can come in, have fun, but still improve just on being a person,
improve being a bartender, just improve overall. Name dropped who I know there, and I was like, yo, yeah, like.
Oh, they're nervous because they haven't interviewed in a couple years, and you know, something a little different for that.
Almost every single person that has interviewed me I've always walked away like, well, I think that one went well, you know. But then again, you never know. So, but I am very hopeful.
A lot of restaurants that close down don't think about the employee's next step, and you know, they still have bills to pay and a future ahead of them as well.
This place is more of a family than a job for me. Like it's an amazing place. I'll see you at 5 o'clock, baby girl.
5 o'clock on the dot?
Yeah.
Your job.
There are 7 restaurants that came out today to try and hire some of Gov's employees, and if they were not picked up at this job fair, we're told they're going to have more opportunities so they can stay in touch in case the right job comes along. Police officers are not mental health experts, but a little knowledge saves lives.
We need to know how to communicate. We need to know the difference between a person that's just acting rebellious versus someone that's maybe schizophrenic and off their meds.
And when the A-line breaks down, passengers can break it down on RTD's emergency party bus. That's next.
On July 20th, 2012, my family's life changed forever. My brother was one of 12 lives lost. We share stories of loss, recovery, and the need for something positive. The 720 Memorial Foundation is turning this into a garden for our entire community. Join us. A place for reflection, for finding peace, and for healing.
No more. It's none of my business.
No more. I'm sure they'll work it out.
No more. It only happened once.
No more. He said he was sorry. No more. Why doesn't she just leave?
No more. Not my problem.
No more. But he has such a bright future.
No more. He didn't mean it.
No more bystanding.
No more ignorance.
No more excuses. No more.
I am Junior Achievement.
I am Junior Achievement.
I didn't know what I was capable of. Junior Achievement, man, they ignited my drive. I mean, JA Company program basically taught me how to be an entrepreneur. Because of JA, I felt empowered to create a better future for my family and myself. I'm Terry, and I am Junior Achievement.
Share your discovery at www.ja.org/alumni.
Because of this house, I feel a sense of freedom.
Because of this house, I see hope.
Because of this house,
we have a different ending to our story.
Because of this home, we can do anything that our hearts desire.
I have peace at mind.
Because of our house, there are endless possibilities.
Because of this house, my sisters and I were happy children.
I see a brighter future.
I'm a better person.
My eyes have been opened.
It's giving me my life. Because of this house, I'm home.
You can change the lives of families in your community and around the world. Join us. Habitat. We build.
It's 3 p.m. For 50 million kids across America, school's out. And for a third of these kids, they're out on their own. Out with nowhere to go and nothing to do. But every afternoon is a chance to change America's future. All you have to do is open the door. It's time to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
A newscast that's full of crime and horror, that's not an accurate reflection of our world. And neither is a newscast that's full of just good news, because it ain't all puppies and rainbows out there. We should be able to talk about things in a real way. You ever notice how a lot of the public servants mentioned on the typical TV news are in trouble for this or that? But come on, think about it. We know better. We know most people who get paid to serve the public do just that. They go about their business with honesty and professionalism, like the 14 Denver police officers honored today by the National Alliance on Mental Illness. If you've watched Next before, you know we say folks like that are the good ones, and they're almost all good ones.
That let you get back out to doing what you do best.
Being recognized for the work you do
it's quite an honor.
Is humbling for Officer Day Lapira.
Practically every officer could have been nominated.
She's one of 14 Denver police officers being honored for using their crisis intervention training.
I've known officers that would spend an hour talking to an individual.
Lapira is also a CIT instructor for the department and says officers go through at least 40 hours of training to learn how to recognize and handle people who are mentally ill.
We ask them to be open-minded and express more empathy and compassion to whatever situation.
I am part of the National Crisis Response Team.
And today,
but also when you think about your own mental health.
They also received some words of advice from a fellow first responder.
You work in that environment where your life is on the line and you're in environments where people don't trust you. It's very difficult on your emotional well-being.
Encouragement for these officers dealing with difficult situations.
Usually a mental health cause, the person is heightened emotionally. They're unstable. They can't communicate. You're really trying to figure out the best way to handle this while staying safe.
So the luncheon to honor these 14 is to show just how much they're appreciated and an inspiration to the people they work with.
That inspires me because they're willing to go the extra effort to grow. And you can't help but have admiration for that.
For Next,
Thank you so much.
I'm Byron Reed.
All right, now, so that was a whole big public shindig. But if you know of something that's more under the radar, you can help us highlight public servants who are doing the right things, the good ones. Email us next@9news.com. or get our attention with the hashtag #HeyNext. So a few months back here, we introduced you to a Littleton police officer. He was also recognized for going above and beyond in his community. And that day he told us his career path, his desire to serve, came from an officer who ran the DARE program at his elementary school in Lakewood. This was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when I was little, he was tall. He was really tall.
Hi. Hey, David. I recognize you for sure. How are you doing?
It's good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you too.
Those men had not seen each other for decades. Officer David Ford hadn't been able to track down Officer Tom Ritchie until the story ran here on Next. One of you put them in touch. Today, Officer Ford had the chance to thank his mentor over lunch.
And I just hope one day I can be sitting in your position, in your seat right there, and looking at a young officer and then just hearing about the impact that I was able to make in their life.
It's nice to have you turn out the way you do turning out. It's just wonderful. Whether you're in police work or not, you're a neat man, and it's a pleasure to see you.
Officer Ford tells us he did not have a father to look up to as a kid, so he found inspiration in Officer Ritchie. They plan to stay in touch with each other over email. All right, time for our shameless ripoff of The More You Know. We call it, You Should Probably Know This. Know this. If the A-line train to the plane isn't running, you might get the ride of a lifetime on this party bus. Construction over the weekend interrupted service along the A and B lines, so RTD asked some charter bus drivers to fill the gap with free rides. Elizabeth DeColvenaire was on one of the buses out of Union Station, and this is what her ride to the airport looked like. What do you suppose that pole is for? I think there are a couple of them. So anyway, RTD says when it comes to shuttling stranded drivers, they will use whatever is available. And just so you're aware, the party bus driver proposed switching back to the regular lighting, and the folks in back said, no thanks. Turn up the music. The most Colorado thing we saw today, as well as your feedback. Next.
Jewish Family Service distributes tons of food to the hungry, counsels hundreds of people in pain, employs those with disabilities, provides hope and help to seniors, helps the unemployed get jobs, and assists refugees new to America.
Touching 21,000 people every single year.
JFS does so much, and yet it comes down to you. You have the power to change the world.
I'm Marshall Zelinger, sharing Colorado's stories. 9 News, everywhere.
Our Broncos.
I'm a Broncos fan because we got the best team in the NFL.
My whole life I've been a Broncos fan.
Denver till we die. We bring the thunder. Bronco fans are the best.
It's probably the most exciting thing that you could ever feel.
They're the best team in the league, obviously. We got the best fans. The whole stadium shakes and everybody's jumping around and rooting and hollering. There's nothing like this crowd.
Broncos fans will always stay loyal.
We're looking forward to another Super Bowl win. This is Bronco country. We bleed orange and blue.
I'm Corporal Klinger.
That must be me, sir.
I tried everything to get out of the Army.
I'll do anything to prove I'm not fit.
I sailed on a raft. I ate a Jeep.
Dip it in a little 30-weight motor oil, pop it in, and let it slide down the gullet.
But I never got out, which means you can watch more of me on MeTV.
Back-to-back episodes of MASH, weeknights starting at 6 on MeTV.
Get to know the Johnsons 5 nights a week.
How about I give you $100?
No, 200, and you agree not to have any more children.
Okay, that's a decision I have. No.
A traditional family.
I'm here to help.
You're not Mom.
Where's Mom?
And an unconventional comedy.
I think you look good for your age, Dad.
40's not bad, right?
You're only 40? Good Lord, you've lived a hard life.
Weekdays starting at 5 p.m. on Channel 20.
I aspire to be a writer. New York Times bestseller is the dream.
My dream is to become a marine biologist and to work hands-on with animals.
I dream to travel around the world and be an influential speaker.
I want to be a businesswoman or a doctor.
My goals and aspirations are to make a difference.
My dream is to be an Air Force pilot.
I want to go to med school and I want to be a trauma surgeon.
I always ask my family for world peace for Christmas.
The most Colorado thing we saw today is just a human and a horse and a dog out for a weekend stroll. Rob Scroggins took this picture over the weekend along Old South Golden Road. A simple scene, but that looks like Colorado to me. We finished with your feedback. Anton writing in about the homeless sweeps in Denver saying they're camping in front of a homeless shelter. What can we do when the resources are literally on the same street and they refuse those services? That remains the perplexing question, Anton. We've had folks on here talking about why they don't feel comfortable in Denver shelters, and we know a lot of times no amount of coaxing can bring them in. Dennis says, I thought you were supposed to be impartial. I was very disappointed with your political ad against Walker Stapleton. Can't reinforce enough. We do not have any legal recourse when an outside group clips something from our air and puts it in an ad. Stand by everything I said, but you should see it in the full context on 9news.com. See you next time. Subscribe to the Next YouTube channel for the best of Next and some other stuff.